Okay, and for this album, for I Carry Your Heart, and what was the genesis of this project? Because it's released under you as your name, Taylor Scott Davis, but you have all these performers. I mean, did you have the intention of going out to, make a Taylor Scott Davis album? Or did somebody come to you first and say, the choir group that's in London, how do you pronounce that? Is it
So
VOCES
I
8?
should have said when you asked what my positions were. I am, as of about 6 months ago, the composer in residence for VOCES8. They are one of the, if not the most famous choir in the world. They travel all over, hundreds of dates on the calendar every year. They record, they've um, provided music for film score. They are a behemoth. There are eight voices, two sopranos, two altos, two tenors, two basses, but they are the best of the best. And so when I became composer in residence for them, I guess just prior to that, I had written for them quite a bit. And so the question came up: we're turning 20. You're about to be composer in residence. Would you like to consider doing something as a part of this? And the answer, of course, was yes. So I Carry Your Heart was not written for them. It was written for another group that commissioned me. Um, the piece, I Carry Your Heart, but it was great fun to put it in front of them because they're just extraordinary at what they do. Effortlessly, the second track on the album was written for them a few years ago. And that was me writing specifically for those voices. And it's fun that now it's out on the album with with just their voices. Um, and then the Requiem that they asked me to write is this 35 minute work and involves, as I said, a fairly good size orchestra, definitely not a chamber orchestra. And the choir went from the eight of them to like 24. So they brought in a bunch of their scholar singers from all over the UK, some in other parts of Europe, and we recorded it last June. So VOCES8 can be just the eight of them, or it can be them plus other people in their stable because they are big into education outreach and sort of constantly training new voices, um, new young professionals.
Yeah, and I feel, sort of admittedly ignorant, like not knowing as much about them prior to this. But for somebody out there who doesn't know about them, I mean, when I took a look at them, I saw like they were involved a lot in education, but they're sort of like dressed in plain clothes. Like, just is that kind of a way to go about like modernization? Or because I mean, traditionally, when you see a choir, it's going to be the very formal, like church type setting where everybody has the robes and everything. I mean, are we moving, more in the direction of, because they're obviously like very incredibly talented. I mean,
Yeah.
what would you say about, is there a modernization piece that people are trying to be more down to earth, do you think?
Well, I do think they do an exceptional job of making music available to the masses. And I think part of that is the way they look. If they're giving a concert, in December, I was with them in Washington, D.C., because they premiered a new Christmas carol that I wrote. And that was at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. They were in tuxes and nice dresses for that,
Hmm.
or suits and nice dresses. But then, as you say, they'll often be in these recordings, these videos that they put together, and they're just in street clothes. And I think both belong. I think the acknowledging the venue, the reverence of the venue, the history of the venue requires you to perhaps gussy up. But then there's nothing wrong with them singing in jeans and polo shirt, because in some ways they're just showing you what they do at the office. So it's sort of more like a casual setting. That's them at their cubicle, more or less, when they're making those videos. So I think it's both and. I think they're just really good at saying this style belongs in this space, and so therefore we're going to look this way. And because we're not beholden to that in this video, we're going to look how we want to look.
Yeah, I really love that because it shows, a certain versatility in the way that things are being presented these days. I mean, you want to look proper for the venue that you're in, but I really love how these days, people also can have these smaller ensembles in places that you wouldn't have imagined before. Like, for example, I've seen like the string quartet will be playing here where I live whenever you can go just have a coffee and watch them, at the coffee shop or a little venue they have there. Or I've been to like another performance that they'll have at a vineyard, and so I really love how, like, as you say, bringing it down to the masses, that people are stepping out of the box and exploring different spaces in that way.
Yeah.
I mean,
And their music is representative of that gambit. They sing music that is from 500 years ago. It's a gorgeous Renaissance piece of music for double choir, maybe. And then they'll turn around and they'll sing an arrangement of Route 66, and they are incredible at both. But by being incredible at both, I think they've done a really good job of representing the people that listen to their music. Yeah, it's some significant patrons that go to these concerts, and also it's people that look like you and me, and aren't maybe wearing a tux and a gown to the local symphony hall because it's a Thursday night and they're just out. So I think they look the part. I think they sound the part as well, which is really a good thing.
if somebody was going to, for example, stream your album, I mean, what kind of vibe are we getting? Because I feel like anybody could listen to this type of music, and specifically your album, like just to be, like chill at home in the background, you're relaxing. Like what can you say about the vibe?
Well, I think if you were to go to a VOCES8 concert, like again, let's take the one in December. They do a brilliant job of explaining each piece before it happens, or maybe if they're going to do a set, they'll do a set of two or three pieces, and they'll specifically say, "Here's why we're treating this as a set." And if you even feel like applauding, if you could just wait until after this second or third piece. But the little micro education moments that they give are humorous and relatable. It's taking music that's often 300 or 400 years old and contextualizing it for people. So they do an excellent job of making it something that's digestible for just regular people. You don't have to be a doctoral student in music history from 1700 to 1704, for instance. So there's that. As far as listening to the "I Carry Your Heart" album, I don't think you necessarily need to understand the sacred texts that I've set. I don't think you need to understand poetry to appreciate the E.E. Cummings poem, "I Carry Your Heart." I think it's I think understanding the rise and the fall of it is important, and that's just to distill it down. It's love and loss. Love in the form of the E.E. Cummings poem, which was truly just about one human loving another human. Love in the second track, "Effortlessly," is about a creator loving humanity. And then track 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, those are all from this requiem, which is about loss. And we can all understand love and loss. and then the recovery after the requiem. There are these three sacred texts, and again, it's like that's probably what peace sounds like. That's what acceptance sounds like. That's what relinquishing control sounds like. Those last three tracks. So if sacred texts, if poetry is your thing, then great. Listen to it with that ear. But if not, it's an album that's representative of some very human qualities in loving and losing.
Yeah, no, I love that, it's really exploring. I mean, as all music does, I feel like there's a universality, to, if that's a word, universality to it. I mean, everybody as a human goes through these life experiences, certain sets of emotions, and you don't have to be confined to, maybe the genre that you're used to. Like, go out there and be curious about things, and you can find a lot of these commonalities, as you go through the music. And I like how you're able to explore that.
I think with all art, whether that's a piece of sculpture or piece of music, um, it hits you different at different times. If you've just um, learned to appreciate visual art, it's going to hit you differently than if you're in fifth grade and exploring a museum for the first time. If you're listening to a love song and you've just broken up with somebody, it's going to hit you different than if you're listening to a love song and you're celebrating your 50th anniversary. But every time we listen to it, we're these different humans and we're coming at it from a different angle. And the loss thing might hurt really badly one time, and then you listen to it again and you think, yeah, I'm glad I pushed through that. This strikes me in a different way.
I really love that you're saying that and pointing that out, because, as art, I mean, we really are, in a sense, as a creator of the art, maybe you are feeling something in a moment or you're creating it for a purpose. And then, once you release that art out onto the world, it really belongs to the world and the interpreter as they're listening to it. And as you listen to something, you really are ascribing your own experiences onto, what is either coming out of your speaker or you're experiencing in person. And so, I mean, I like that, whatever you have created for your art, not only are you adding the other people as collaborators into your composition, so then they continue to change it. And then when you perform it to your audience, each audience member, can have their own unique experience of your art as they see it.
I'm often talking about people, performers or conductors, putting their fingerprints on my music, and I to me that's just kind of the best way to for me to think about it. It it's fun when people are saying we value this enough to do it, and then when they do it, they're also saying, and here's how we interpret it. I just think that's very cool, and then it doesn't have to exist that way again. In fact, in all likelihood, it won't exist that way again.
In each live performance, and you're, as an engineer, thinking about the different spaces and the different acoustics and the way that things are, or as you say, if there's different performers and they're adding, their own take on it each time. I mean, yeah, it's going to continue. And as we go through life, anytime that we listen to it, we're going to experience it in a different way. And so, I mean, that's a really beautiful thing to think about.
And there's also just an energy that is present in a room that you could give back-to-back performances. One of them is at 2 o'clock and one of them is at, say, 5 o'clock. The audiences being different will bring a different energy, and that energy changes the perception of what's happening. So it's always evolving. Every aspect of art is evolving. The human element of what we do, whether that's a room full of listeners or a stage full of performers, it's just constantly evolving.